Hello, beautiful people. Some people have requested for my testimony or the story of my life. Here we go. It all started in December 1997 in a small town in Penang. I was born and raised in a new Christian family. When I was in kindergarten, I was always a very quiet kid. I loved to read in the corner of my house, and I was always in deep thought. I listened a lot more than I spoke, and I loved to hear stories. My mom had to read me stories to sleep, or to make up a story before I go to bed. My mom always told me when I was younger, I ate no more than 3 spoonsful of rice, and that was it. So I was a really small kid. That's where the stories help. She would spoon feed me while reading a story, and at the end of the story, I would finish a plate of rice. When I was in primary school, I wanted to be a scientist. I remember hearing stories from my friend, Cree, that his dad was a scientist and it sounded so cool back then. He would tell me crazy stories of what his dad does, and in my mind, his stories felt like a spy movie, which is probably why I still like mystery and psychological thriller movies. When I was in Sunday school, I was always that good kid that tucked in his shirt, sat at the front and answered various questions. I used to remember memory verses every week and would be able to recite them consistently. I had good memory back then. How I wish I still have that power now. Although, maybe I use it for different things other than my studies. It was in primary school that I met my first few friends, the Brandons, Fats and Ang, Joel, and Jivin. I'll come to that later. It was also in primary school that I started watching YouTube videos. I turned to YouTube as my source of entertainment and learning. Fun fact, I learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube from YouTube. At the age of 12, my brother taught me basic chords on the guitar, and I then turned to YouTube to learn more. Moving on to high school, do note that my primary school and my high school was just next to each other, so naturally, my friends and I went to the same high school together. I started having a bigger group of friends, some of which became the group that I'm still very close with, called the Nanopays, or the Nanoops, however you want to pronounce it. These friends were the friends that I had in primary school, together with other friends from other primary schools. All of us were either in the same class or adjoining classes. Shout out to Nanopays and everyone else from high school. Thanks guys, love you. My interest in YouTube grew even bigger. I was watching Nega Higa, Dietrich and Chester C. I was also watching Wongfru Productions, Just Kidding Films, and Just Kidding News. My friends and I actually made a video together when we were in Form 1, because we thought it was so cool and it was something interesting to do. I was very involved in various societies. The Boy Scouts, where I had to wear sexy knee-high socks almost every Wednesday. The Basketball Club, where my ball was punctured once by the discipline teacher, and the debate team. I started joining my school debate competitions and managed to get onto the debate team in my last 3 years of high school. I used to be able to speak and articulate my thoughts very well when I was on the debate team. However, I seem to have lost that skill after I stopped debating. We would argue that most of our topics boiled down to human nature, and how at the core, we're just sinful and evil. I did not attend much of my church youth service, because of tuition clashes and transport problems. However, in Form 4, I started taking a bus, and then a ferry, and then another bus before walking to youth service. When it came to my final year of high school, things started changing. I lost my interest in studying science. I still believe science is a good place to be in, but I did not see myself doing science as a career. According to my mom, I was a lot more serious and a bit sadder when I was in Form 5. I would save this story for another time. This was also the year where I had to take my SPM, the national exam required to graduate high school. What was interesting, however, was that I took up this subject called Bible Knowledge. Before I took up this subject as a paper in SPM, I had to actually meet my principal, as my school did not offer this paper at all. I had to convince him that I'll give him an A for a paper, so as not to tarnish the school's reputation. I was the only student who took the paper in my school. Because I lived on the mainland, I could not go to the Bible knowledge classes offered in my church. I had to self-study a really difficult paper with little tutoring. Thanks Auntie Stella for guiding me. I managed to get an A- in Bible knowledge, something which I'm still very grateful and thankful for, because it's only by God's grace that I managed to get that result by self-studying. On the outside, I was still a passive person, an introvert that had social skills. I choose to avoid aggression when met with conflict. I would try to solve them as diplomatically as possible, trying to make sense of things. I had a sense of humor, according to my friends. I kind of know when to crack a joke and when not to. Though my humor can be questioned sometimes because everyone has their weird sense of humor. My friends described me as supportive, friendly, caring, understanding, and always a listener. However, this part is a side of a story which my friends don't really hear a lot. I struggle with self-confidence, anxiety, questions relating to Christianity like my faith, not being good enough, and being average. I felt like there was something wrong with my face, my teeth, and that I wasn't handsome enough, that I wasn't smart enough, or that I wasn't athletic enough. I was dealing with these thoughts throughout high school. Yes, I know these are very common things that teenagers deal with, but these issues are real and painful. Especially when I was nearing my SPM, I had breakdowns because I had no idea what I wanted to do after SPM. I don't know if I wanted to take up A-levels or diploma. I had no idea what my interests were at the time. All I knew was becoming a YouTuber was a pretty cool thing to do. What's interesting is that I changed in high school. I wasn't the same timid kid I was in primary school. Think about it for a second. How did such a shy, timid kid become someone who spoke a lot? Maybe because I was given opportunities at the right time and I took the chances? I was the head prefect, sort of leader of the debate team, scouts troop leader, and sports house leader. I thank God for these opportunities. Moving on to college, before I even received my SPM results, I enrolled into college for my A-levels. A-levels was the toughest time of my life so far. I did A-levels because I wanted to buy time, as I had no idea what I wanted to do for my future. I wasn't into science. I haven't done any other subjects related to science. But guess what I did for A-levels? Science subjects. I took up biology, chemistry, and mathematics. I was even more involved in my youth by now. I became a youth leader, a musician, part of the committee for iPad and youth events. On top of that, I made a really good group of friends in church as well. Shout out to Hobos and Tomatoes if any of you are still watching these videos. I was involved in the Mulder United Nations conferences as I found it similar to the debates I had in high school. But by the end of my studies, I found that the community in these MAN conferences have turned toxic. And I decided I wasn't going to attend anymore, as I don't need the kind of negativity in my life. Am I right? Of course I'm right. My involvement in YouTube became even more real when I got the chance to meet real YouTubers in person, when I went for a program called 1M4U, where they hosted YouTubers like the JK Fam, Wong Fu, Dietrix, and Jun Karyan. It was one of my happiest days ever. Back to the topic, A-levels is not for the faint of heart. It definitely took a toll on me. On the outside, I was still a great listener, extremely random, hardworking, and funny, supportive, always goes to church, and puts God first. But on the inside, I was struggling so much with my subjects as I partially knew what was going on. I didn't know how to apply them to questions. Bear in mind that I had little to no interest in these subjects. I think the stress of thinking of what I'm going to do with my future, what I wanted to do as a career, the stress of learning and getting the grades required to get an education, and the pressure I had on myself to perform well enough. I had multiple mental breakdowns throughout the whole program. I was, quote-unquote, self-diagnosed depressed. I was sad all the time. My thoughts revolved around my future, my grades, and my life in general. I was living such terrible life. A-levels was the worst period of my life. Period. I can only thank God, most importantly, for being there with me throughout the entire program. My friends, my family, and my youth pastor for supporting me. I applied to 3 different universities. The University of Auckland, the University of Adelaide, and the University of Auckland. I applied for the subjects accounting and finance, as well as law, because my brother's an accountant and my mom is a lawyer, so that explains my degree choices. One day in September 2016, there was a pastor who came to my church who was able to prophesy, and he prophesied that I would receive the New Zealand offer within a period of 10 to 14 days. I received the offers from the Australian universities in 1 week. When it came to the 14th day, however, I remember I was on my way home from my youth group around 11 PM that I was telling God that I believe and I trust in Him that He will provide the New Zealand offer. Indeed, when I came back and I checked my email, I received my offer from the University of Auckland at 8 PM that very night. I was really happy that His promises indeed come to pass. Then it hit me. Which one am I gonna accept? I had 3 offers from 3 different universities. What am I gonna do? So I took about 2 months of praying and earnestly seeking the Lord with my family. Then I made a decision to come to New Zealand. We believe that the Lord impressed upon our hearts that New Zealand was the right place to go. That He will provide the money and everything else will go smoothly. Indeed, everything went smoothly. The whole visa application process, finding accommodation, even though there were some hiccups here and there, but generally, everything went smooth. All glory to God. And a final story before going to university. Right before I left Penang for Auckland, I received 2,000 New Zealand dollars from a relative. I remember crying while holding the money. I thanked her with all my heart. This was another proof that God would provide for me. And off to Auckland I went on a 13-hour flight. Surprisingly, I met heaps of Malaysians living in the same residence as I was. What coincidence? Or was it divine orchestration? Shout out to the Huya fam. From then on, I joined a couple of clubs. During a week, I found that Auckland University had an Overseas Christian Fellowship Club. It became integral to my year in Auckland. I'll make another video about it. My year in Auckland has its ups and downs. There were plenty of times when I was blessed by God by earning money through econs experiments, or saving money by packing extra dinners for lunches, or being able to travel down to South Island for the winter break, or even being able to go to my favourite band's concerts, or getting jobs. Whereas there are plenty of times that I faced steady challenges, minor breakdowns because of stress, being sick almost every start of the month, felt down on different days because of depressing thoughts, and worst of all, missing all my friends and families, and having to come to New Zealand to rebuild friendships. All this happened because I was reading my diary, and I remembered the memories that I made with my family and friends. Shout out to the first year squad as well as Kids for Christ for supporting me and being such great friends. And here I am now, making this video, because some people requested the story of my life. I definitely grew a lot more spiritually after I came to New Zealand. Maybe that's why God wants me to be here. I learned so much by questioning my faith, my theological understandings, the songs I listen to and the lyrics that I sing. I would dare say I grew much more than I was in Malaysia. But isn't that what we're all aiming for? Growth? Finally, before I end, I just want to thank all my family and friends for supporting me and building me up to be who I am. Without you, I wouldn't be here in New Zealand having this life right now. I thank you and I miss you all back in Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, Russia, Germany, and US, and every part of the world. I love you guys so much. Another huge thank you to those who are with me in New Zealand. Thank you for supporting me through my tough times here. I love you guys too. Thank you and see you next time.